Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy of the Chance of Meeples. Today on the channel, we are checking out Hutan, Life in the Rainforest. Hutan is the Indonesian word for forest. I'm not that smart. It says that in the introduction of the rule book. But yes, this is a spatial puzzle game from the team, Sidekick Games and the op, that brought us Aqua, Biodiversity in the Oceans, that came out last year, that I absolutely loved. And this one, instead of doing things underwater, you're going to be building a little rainforest on your player boards and attract, hopefully, some wildlife to score the most points. Let me show you how this plays in the radar overview. We'll come back, share my final forecast. Cue the thunder. So the radar overview for Hutan, Life in the Rainforest, looks something like this. In this game, you will be putting down flowers on your player boards, building trees, attracting wildlife in hopes to score the most points. Each player gets a set of 4 player boards, and they're all double-sided, and so you can set it up in whichever orientation you would like. Just everybody will be playing on the same setup. This plays over a series of rounds. I'm going to show you how kind of about 5 rounds would look in a 2-player game to give you a grasp and a good sense of how the game plays. On your turn, you're going to be drafting one of these cards, or you can take this first player marker, which I will say is a pangolin, and I love pangolins. If you don't know what a pangolin is, just do a little Google search on a pangolin. These things are sweet animals, but how this works is you will be drafting one of these cards. Say I'm the first player, I draft this, I would then grab these 3 flowers, and I would put them on my board. I have to put them so that they're touching in some way. So I could do like this. I could do like this, like this, like this, like this. I couldn't do something like this. I can never go diagonal, and I can never just split up the 3 different flowers like that. But let's say I do something like that, and player 2 goes. They will take these. At this point, if I take this, I will get any 1 flower, and I get to start and pick first the next round, or I could take this one. I'm going to take this one because it gives me 2 of these gray-purple flowers. And then I would put maybe 1 here, and again, I could put 1 here, here, or here, but I'm going to put it here instead. Anytime you place the second flower of the same type, that would be removed, and you would replace it with a tree. We would start the next round, and you would just keep going. So first player, let's say they take that. Back to me. I'm going to take this one and kind of do the same thing. Like that and like that. As you see, I made another tree, and this section has only 2 spots. So each of these boards have different areas. So this is a 3 space area, 3 space area, and a 2 space area. I just completed this 2 space area, and because I did it all with the same flower, I now attract, instead of placing a tree, I now attract an animal of the same type, which would be this guy. He would then go there, and then he would fertilize every adjacent space. So right away, I could put a blue one here, which would turn into a tree. I could put any color and any color. And I'm going to do a white one there, and let's say a yellow one there. Other player takes that one, leaves me with this one. I get any 1 flower, and again, I'm going to do right like that. So as you can see, you're wanting to fill up this every area that you can, A, with flowers, and B, ultimately, you want to do them all with the same color, because when you have them with the same color, that's when you can attract these animals. And in this situation, if I fill this whole area in at the end of the game, whether they're flowers or trees, I get 6 points. But if I have one of these rhinoceroses in this area, it will be worth 9 points. So let's keep going. A couple more turns here. This one doesn't really help me because I could do something like this. I can never then get this lion in here because it's not a perfect habitat. I'll take it anyways because if you start any one of these and never finish, as here, if I wouldn't finish this one or this one, instead of getting me the 6 points, it would get me minus 6 points. And so you want to be able to, for sure, fulfill each little area that you've already started. Player 2, they're going to grab this one. That leaves me with this guy. So I'm going to go here, which again would turn into one of those. And I put a red one there. This guy would fertilize. So I would put a red and a white, which again would give me a tree right away. So as you can see, as you go over continue to go through these rounds, you will kind of have a little bit of comboing, and you'll want to place your animals and your trees specifically to turn into animals in specific locations so that they can then fertilize and get you more flowers, and it can kind of cascade a little bit. You know what? I'm going to take this one, just a single one, because I want to finish that off. Player 2 takes that. I'm going to take this. And you know what? Gives me another single one. And let's go like that. And player 2 does that. These were 100% randomized. I'm taking that one. Player 1 is taking that. And these are my final ones. And I do like this and this. To get discarded, player 2 takes that. At that would kind of be potentially at the end of the game. And then you have a scorecard to do all your scoring. You get points for trees. You get points for each animal you have. Every completed area. So in this case, this would be worth 6, 6, 2, 2, 2, 4. And I believe each board equals 10. So if you finish a whole board, it's 10. This is 4, 4. 2 is 10. 2, 4. Plus 6 is 10. So yeah, they all have 10 points available if you finish all these. I should also say that these are lakes. There's kind of one on each of these 3 boards. You can never put anything in a lake. So if I would take something like this, I could not put anything there. But you score up all that. Any of the ones that you started but you didn't finish is minus points. And that's a subtotal. And that could be the whole game. Or if you wanted to add any number from 1 to 5 ecosystems, you can. And there is a whole bunch of them. And I'll just explain kind of how each of these work. This is 5 points. If you can, sorry, not 5 points. It is 5 points, yes. There are the ecosystem cards and all that glossary in the back of the rulebook. 5 points for every group of 3 trees. This is for every tree on the outside of your board is 2 points. 2 points for every tree on each red flower. 4 points for each different animal you have. And this would be 3 points if you have a whole section of white flowers. You get 3 points. And like I said, there are lots of different ecosystems you can play with, much like if you notice the look of this game looks a lot like Aqua, and it kind of is a little bit like Aqua because there are challenges, there's modifications that you can do, there are scenarios, you play with certain ecosystems, you set up your boards in a certain way, you try to hit a target score like 150 with this setup of the ecosystems and your board layout. And you can do these scenarios, challenges, modifications with different people. There's a solo rules. There's just so much content in ways that you can play Hutan. And so, yes, these are part of the flowers. There are a ton of these little trees. And that, in a nutshell, is how you play Hutan, Life in the Rainforest. Let's move on over now and take a look at the final forecast. So the final forecast for Hutan, Life in the Rainforest, the successor to Aqua, Biodiversities in the Ocean, which a game that I absolutely loved from last year. Spatial puzzle about creating coral and attracting animals, and chef's kiss. So much good stuff about Aqua. How does this one compare? This is a wildly different game. It's got the spatial puzzle, but you're building up a 3D rainforest. And before I get into gameplay, just talk about components. These boards, nice, sturdy, thick cardboard. You get 4 per player, all double-sided. Each game will feel a little bit different depending on which orientation you put these. If you use some of the easy side and the hard side, like the hard side, 8 points if you finish, 12 if you have an animal. But man, that'll be quite tricky once you know how to play the game. I wouldn't necessarily start on the hard side. Actually, I wouldn't. But these are nice. You get a full box full of trees that you must build and put together. Took my daughter and I probably 30 to 45 minutes punching out all the trees, putting them together, punching out a plethora, and I mean a lot, of these flower tokens. There are a lot, but the components are quite nice. These trees actually aren't as fiddly as they might seem. They stick together pretty good. The screen printed little animals, cassowary. These birds are crazy. I didn't know about them before I read the back of the rule book. I love this. They got the wildlife in Hutan. Talks about the different animals, including my absolute favorite, the pangolin. If you don't know what a pangolin is, just search and look up a pangolin. These things are amazing. They walk on 4s. They walk on 2 feet. They're awesome. But anyways, you got the different animals, screen printed meeples. They look good. Nice wooden components. Everything fits nice in the box. Vincent Dutrait artwork. Of course, so many people love his artwork. I do like it. Not my favorite art style, but it is a very classic looking art style. And it just looks great on the table when you're building up these trees and you're building up your rainforest. You're attracting these animals. At the end of the game, you could have upwards to 10, 12 of these trees on your board, and your board is just vibrant. You got the flowers underneath. And so this is just a great looking game. I remember seeing an overview and kind of like early how to play this game when I first started, when it first was announced and released. And I remember watching the video and I was like, I'm so confused. The game just looks so confusing. But when I played it, I was like, man, this is just so much easier to play than I thought it would. The rules, there's the rule overhead. There's not much for rules overhead. And it looks more complicated than it is. It really does. I think one of the favorite things, I love spatial puzzles. And I will say that Nicole absolutely loved this one, the first play. She does not like Aqua. She really enjoyed this one. If that's any indication, my thoughts are kind of hers as well. But I'll get to my final rating. I love the arc of this game. Because at the beginning of the game, you want to get a ton of flowers. You want to, start all sorts of different areas on your board. And hopefully then fill them with the same flowers to attract the wildlife. Because when the wildlife comes on your board, they, fertilize everything around so you can get more flowers. You can kind of cascade the effects of those animals and just propel your game. So beginning of the game, you want to, get lots and lots of flowers. So cards that have 3 flowers that you can draft are more enticing. But as the game progresses and the game gets low, into the deeper rounds, it plays 9 rounds, cards like this almost become just as powerful as a card that only gives you 1 flower. And I find that fascinating because at the beginning, like I said, you want to spread out. You want to get all these flowers in all these different areas. But later on in the game, it gets more crunchier and thinkier, and more challenging to get the flowers, the specific flowers that you want. So gaining first player advantage can be a big thing because you also get any one flower, and cards like I showed you with a wild, you just take one flower because that one flower might be able to finish a section, which will gain you an animal, which will then be able to let you fertilize something so you can finish off other areas. And I really, really like that about that. I really, really like that about Hutan because it's not reverse, but you want to get the most at the beginning, and then you're kind of fine getting less and less at the end. To a degree, of course, you always want to get the most flowers. I do understand that, but they become more versatile because then you're not necessarily starting a new section that you may not finish, because any section that you start, if you start this and you don't finish it, instead of gaining 6 points, you're getting -6. That can be a big thing in this game. And so later on in the game, you may just want that single one to finish that section. And then that's just so satisfying having all your sections complete. There's that. You also have the ecosystem cards, which I love. You can play with them, without them. You can play with one of them. You can play with 5 of them. You can make it as challenging and as like brain burning as you want. And there's so many of them. I love it that they have all the ecosystems on the back. You know, ones that are specific. You want them specific. Of trees on certain colors, or whole areas with certain colors. You want to have, animals or trees on the outside of the board. As soon as you do that, specifically all the animals on the outside of the tree, you have to then make sure that these are the last ones that you build your second tree on to get the animal here. You can get 6 points for that in one of the ecosystems, and that presents just that much more challenge in this game. I love this game. I really do. There's so much to this game, much like Aqua, the Team and Sidekick games, as well as the Op, really have a winner here. Of course, there's variants. You can have a family version, just like in Aqua. You can have scenarios. You can set it up with just different ecosystem cards, board layouts, try to gain these target scores. You can have modifications. You can have, score 100 points, have 15 or more trees, have 20 or more trees. Have flowers in all the spaces on all 4 Rainforest boards. Have flowers on every space on your board. Can you do it? There's 26 challenges, modifications. There's so much to love about Hutan. If you're a fan of spatial puzzles, I think this is just a gem of a game. I will say I like Aqua a little bit more than this one, but I really do like this one. When I was setting up my radar overview just to give the little demo, it just gave me that exciting feeling of like, man, I just love this game. I love the puzzle. I love the simple drafting, which I will say there can be more hate drafting in this one because there's in a 2-player game, there's only 4 things to draft. So you can really potentially stick it to somebody in a 2-player game and be like, you know what? I'm going to stick away these 3 flowers that you have to place, which might make you start a new section that I know you're not going to finish. That can happen in this game. I personally don't play that style, but it could happen because if you're going last, you never have a choice. It's just, I get the leftovers. That might be a minor thing, but I love this. I love the spatial aspect. I love the puzzle. I love the arc of this. I love having all these trees on my board, attracting animals. Just, yes, fantastic. 80% chance of meeples. I highly recommend Hutan if you are a fan of spatial puzzles. 80% chance of meeples for Hutan. Check it out. Till next time, my name is Brent. Grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.